Well, good afternoon, or whatever time of day it is where you are. This is Stephen Dinan, the host of Birth 2012 TV and the producer of Birth 2012, and I'm just delighted to be sharing with you here today because the excitement is building in extraordinary ways. There's a palpable sense of this thing is really going to pop globally. We've been talking with Unify, who we're now working with, about meditations, a lot of celebrities activating around this. There's going to be a synthesis of our programming. We're going to share a lot about that today. But first, we want to begin with 3 minutes of love, as we've been doing each day as a practice to build towards 3 days of love. 3 days of love it's a very serious commitment. Most of us go through the day, ups and downs, we're feeling anxious or stressed, and to actually take it on to really be a source of love for 3 full days is a serious commitment. So let's start with 3 minutes, and we're going to have our guest, Charlie Gay, lead us in that.
What an honor it is to fill up 3 minutes of love with you today. Right from the outset, let's just stop. Let's be silent. Let's move into our hearts and feel the love beat of our heart. Let us do this for 10, 15 seconds. Can you feel the love that's in your heart? Can you feel the minefield of your mind stepping away and just connect through to your heart? In your day today, stuff is going to come up. Stuff where judgment could cause you to shift away from your love. Recognize that as you point that finger, they're the 3 fingers pointing back. Bring them back into your heart. Recognize that everyone in the world is doing the best they know how. Everyone around you is doing the best they know how. If they knew any different, they'd be doing it. So it's so easy to be compassionate to your fellow human. And yet how hard is it to receive the love for yourself? Let us spend a few seconds receiving the love of your child that is inside of you. Peel away the confusion and the compromise and the conflict that may have come through your early years. Recognize that even if you're in a chaotic moment, in this very second as you're watching this, recognize the opportunity that's there, the choice that you have to move back into that position of love, beyond fear and darkness. No despot has ever survived history. Love and light conquers all. It is held up by caring, a caring for yourself, a caring for your fellow humans. Connect as you progress into these last few seconds of your 3 minutes. Connect with yourself, with your highest power. Close your eyes and recognize that everything around you is for your highest good. This or something better for your highest good. You go out into your world, stuff will come up again, and realize that you can walk through it from a position of love, that you are everything with love and light around you and inside of you. God bless you.
Well, Charlie, what a pleasure to have you begin with love. And, you know, honestly, I think that's part of the main job qualification that I was so drawn to in bringing you in as executive producers. I could feel that you had not only produced these extraordinary events and media productions and managed Share and done stadium events, but you really lived and moved from love. And I recognize that the intensity of what we're creating needs a field of love in which for that energy to flow, because it's a lot that we've taken on. And so I'd love for you to share about a bit about how you've grown into really having this spacious, non-attached way of producing very large things.
Well, first of all, Stephen, I want to say that you personify, and everyone that's in our team personifies that. And it's really great to do events. And I've realized that love is at the core of all events, because we're often coming together as groups of crews, sound, stage, dancers. And it's been fun being on the road with Cher, for instance. I mean, people think of Cher as, the superstar. And we often get caught up in the labels of media stars. And the reality is she's a divine goddess. Her nickname, which she doesn't use anymore when we're in hotel rooms, was Cleopatra or Isis. So that says a lot.
Right.
And surrounded by divine feminine women. And I was very blessed that she asked me to come in and be involved with that. So, producing events, when you do something live, anything can happen. Anything can happen.
Right now, we could have all kinds of crazy things happen.
All sorts of things happen. And so, when you come back to the basis of this statement, which is the issue is never the issue. It's how I am responding to the issue, which is the issue.
Right.
And then you try and apply it to the biggest thing that you could possibly do, which was your gift to us in Birth 2012. Because you know what? Doing a rock and roll tour with whoever it is, whether it be Rihanna or Cher or whoever, months of planning, crew in place, promoters, ticket sales, it's pretty regimented. You know what you're discovering. You even know your set list pretty well. In this case, there is so many unknowns.
Even today,
and even when we go into the live, because there are so many wonderful people out there in the world, connected in your hubs, connected into the feeds across the world, that are all pulsing with the same beat. Uncommon people, united in this moment with common heart for common purpose. So who knows what's going to show up? But I shared with Byron from Catalyst, from inside your organization, that I will know myself better on December 23rd. And I can assure you and everyone else that you'll know yourself better the day after this event.
That's a beautiful philosophy. And I've really, for me, it's been being the end of the line of making the final decisions on things can be really challenging. I've really loved the way you've mentored me and kind of held a loving space for me to grow into this as well, because it has been a real stretch to try to produce things that are way beyond anything I've produced before. And just to say, yes, Spirit, I'm showing up, I'm going to do this, I trust that the resources will emerge, and so it's been really a godsend. So, but I wanted to get a little bit different angle of you into this as well. You've also been a really extraordinary philanthropist as well, and that's part of what I think this event brings together, is this part of you that's been produced large events and now media platforms for other people, but also just a real philanthropist. I'd love for you to share a little bit about some of the work you've done in Africa, for instance, and with Hubbed, that really is about marrying the transformational impulse with the real service in the larger world.
I think my dad was very involved with charity, and he was very, very philanthropic. And then in my 20s in music, I was sort of pretty random. But meeting Cher, she did a movie called Mask, which had involved with children craniofacial disease. And we used to do these meet and greets. So I met humanity sort of in my face on the road with Cher. And we gave ears to girls that didn't have ears. And then we would give them earrings for their ears after 20 or 30 operations. So I was being forged in my world with that into my heart. Then I took on educating myself around my own humanity. And then I started to reach out and see what that looked like. I've had, like all of us, life is quite random at times, and I got a call to go down to South Africa to become executive director of a non-profit whose patrons were Nelson Mandela and his wife Gracia Michelle, and which was extraordinary. And so I went into the field, and the compassion field can etch the soul and the heart in a way that no words will ever do. And I went down to Africa in 2005 initially to do landmine removal. And I thought I was going down there to give. And I saw some big issues. 80,000 people walked into a refugee camp one day that didn't exist the day before because of floods and cyclones forcing them into higher ground. And the charities had no money or any food. And the UN didn't have any money, and my patrons went around. And so when I saw that, you can't ignore that. Mm-hmm. So I had to respond the best way I could. And I figured out how to put a very large Band-Aid of food on a hemorrhaging wound. And in that moment, I committed to more what Mandela talks about, teaching a fisherman to fish. And so I got very involved with social enterprise. And it was 2006, 2005, and Muhammad Yunus had just started social enterprise. And my life went on from that. And I want to say at the end of it that I see more prosperity in the compassion field in the slums of Africa than I do on our own streets. I see the matriarch family unit intact. I see the power of and hunger for education intact. I see the family unit completely intact. And I go back to the very least the most has been given. I don't see 100 times multiple earnings. I don't see no money down mortgages. I see truth and I see honesty in the darkest of places. And so I have tremendous amount of hope that through humanity and philanthropy that this world shifts.
Well, it just speaks to the deeper level of what we're creating is really an opportunity for people to open their hearts to the entire world.
Yes.
And that is the essence of philanthropy. The love of humanity is at the source of this, that the 3 days of love is an opportunity for us to become the greatest philanthropists that we can be, because the love flowing through us and that we receive back in creates this virtuous cycle of opening to more and more. And that also means opening to the suffering. We have the massacre in Connecticut. It's really cracking open the heart of the world right now. And I think the timing may be no accident in certain ways, that there's a heartbreaking moment right before a heart-opening celebratory moment for the world. And so that they're actually part and parcel together. You have to be willing to be a bit heartbroken, at least, before you can be truly in the field of love.
You're so accurate. David Whyte, who's the great poet, did a poem called The Well of Grief. And there are our own glittering coins that are in the shadows of the bottom of the well. And often we don't have the courage or the conviction to pick those coins up, which is our own brilliance and our own beauty. And we ignore, we are so stressed with the issues of our families and our world and our own economies and stuff. And when Princess Diana passed, who was involved with landmine removal, we all went into our well of grief. I remember Oprah pointing the cameras in the New Orleans Stadium after Katrina and saying, the pity is that these cameras won't be here in 8 days' time, and yet the issue will be still here. So, the issue in Connecticut has, I sense, opened our well of grief. My prayer and hope is that each of us doesn't veneer it over and let the wound seep, that we really open it up and we really do look at it and keep looking at it and keep looking at it. Because the more open we are in the vulnerability that something like this brings up, the greater it is our chance to shift our humankind.
That's beautiful. Well, I'd like to bring in a clip now. We have Barbara Marks Hubbard has sent us a clip about 3 days of love from Australia. And part of what brought us together is a mutual love for this divine woman who is 82 years old and a mother, a grandmother figure for all of us, just blessing and loving all of us, and really the inspiration for 3 days of love. And so let's hear what she had to say, just a couple minutes about the upcoming 3 days of love and how we can best invoke that in our lives.
I'm Catherine Roski, and I'm here with my husband Makasha and our dear friend Barbara Marks Hubbard, and we're in Byron Bay, Australia, preparing for the Uplift Festival and Birth 2012. And it's such a potent time. The three of us have been aware of this time since 1987 and the Harmonic Convergence, where groups of people came together all over the world at sacred sites and in their homes and special places to synchronize a global movement of consciousness to spread around the world in preparation for this time, December 21st, a time when we're all being called forward to give our unique gifts to this planetary shift. So Barbara, would you tell us more about this?
Well, I am so amazed to find that the end of the world is front page news. That's the opening for the breakthrough of the new news of what's being born. Because it's true, something is ending. A whole state of consciousness, of overgrowth, of domination and control must end. And what the end of that world is signifying is there's a readiness on the planet Earth for the birth of the new. How are we going to do this? We're going to come together to reveal that there is a new humanity now being born. It's going to be celebrated in Birth 2012 with a 24-hour global broadcast. It's most important to be celebrated through pledging 3 days of love. If we can develop from December 20th through 22nd a synchronized pattern and field of love, I believe we can shift the consciousness field of Earth from fear to love and prepare for the birth of the new humanity celebrated on December 22nd. What do you think, Makasha?
Well, I just want to reach out and just invite our world family to come together in this great time for all of us so that we can really infuse the nervous system with love. And I know we can do it as a humanity, so let's come together now and join.
Yes.
There we are. We love you.
Well, Barbara just never fails to bring a smile to my face with that level of love, loving presence, and such beauty. And just a reminder that we are going to be going live from Byron Bay with our global webcast of the Theater of Our Birth. And it's actually 7:30 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow night when that begins. So we'll be sharing a bit more about that later. But let's go back to you, Charlie. And so we've talked a lot about love, but let's talk specifics. What is getting you excited to bring to the world about this broadcast? Whether it's the music or the artistry, or what are the elements that are most compelling to you?
I think going back to what Barbara, who is, she's 80-something going on 1 whenever I watch it. It's like love personified, you
Yes.
know? Jerry Maguire, yes. Whenever, you got me at hello. She talks about the imaginal cell. I heard it many times, we all have, where there are so many people in this world that are isolated in their homes from Los Angeles, where we will be congregating. We have this opportunity of connecting all the imaginal cells. And she talks about the imaginal cells in their glue and their gunk as they come together. So the caterpillar doesn't have the imaginal cell, then this imaginal cell suddenly appears and a butterfly is formed, the imaginal cell stays in the butterfly, and of course we know what a butterfly personifies in its flight and its beauty. And so that connection, which we're able to bring through the broadcast of Birth 2012, is literally to bring a community together. And not only are we broadcasting through the player, but we're also allowing people to communicate. I saw the divinity in Facebook. I was asked to do a live broadcast, live in 3D, live in America on TV. It was from South Africa. And then Facebook started to interest me in the fact that there's 1 billion people on it already. 1 billion. And when I caught up with you and you caught up with me, we were talking about 100 million people connected in humanity.
Right.
Why not 1 billion?
Right.
Ever. So that really excites me is the connection.
Yeah.
And what you have brought forward and what Barbara brings forward is authentic expression. And people love to both hear authentic expression and share it with others. And so I really encourage everyone to connect their friends and everyone else in what we're doing.
One way people can do that out there, we have the 3 Days of Love campaign now. Go through 3 Days of Love Facebook page. You can submit your videos and photos of love, and we're going to share the best of those on the global broadcast. And I wanted, before we wrap up with you, I want you to share a bit about how people can host this global broadcast in their own community, which I think is one of the beauties of how we've designed this and the company you've created.
Yes, and we all see the small groups. You created hubs, Barbara created hubs. We love the small nucleus where people can come into a kitchen, or into a living room. And we've been able to do that with Birth 2012. So you can go to birth2012.com/TV and you'll see both an embed slogan underneath the player and also in the navigation bar. And on there are the details. And two things you can do. You can embed the whole iframe of the page. So you can be involved in the conversation, involved with the player, and those details are there. And then it's also really easy for you to actually host the whole broadcast yourself on your own Facebook page. And all the details are there as well. It's really, really simple. It takes a couple of minutes to actually embed. And if you've got any issues, we're there to love you into doing it, and all the details are there to help you do it.
Well, I think it's really just beautiful, the idea. I think what we're wanting is for people to take this inspiration and use it to deepen their existing communities. So that's why people are gathering at hubs around the world, and do register your hub so that other people can find you and meet new people through this. But also the communities. The Brahma Kumaris are activating their centers around the world, and they'll be sharing it through their platforms. The Unity churches, there's 1 million people in Unity around the world who are at least 70 churches, I think, participating, and possibly more. So all these different hubs. So the existing spiritual communities are saying, let's take this inspirational feed in, connect with the larger whole, and deepen